Call it up in the mountains, the old carpet golf, I found it. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Apex Town Council meeting, regularly scheduled meeting for August 1st, 2017. Just wanted to remind everybody that I have asked all the gentlemen, feel free to take your jackets off. It is summertime, so we're going to relax ourselves for the rest of at least August. No jacket, so junk the jackets, bin the blazers. We're going to go, what?
The women?
You're welcome to do what you like. I don't profess to have a vote on fashion for women.
That was a try.
Yeah, it was. No win. Would like to welcome everybody here to the council meeting. I'd like to ask Councilman Moyer if he'd open us with our invocation today.
Absolutely. Please bow with me. Jesus, thank you for the ability to gather here freely today, and you promise us where two or more are gathered in your name, you will be there. I just pray that you guide each of us tonight. Help us make the right decisions for the town of Apex and the leadership positions that you have put us in. Pray for our safety and our service members, both abroad and here at home. And thank you for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. In your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hope everybody was able to get a agenda out on the podium. There are yellow sheets for public speaking, so if you intend to speak during the public forum tonight, please go grab one of these. If you didn't get one, it is bright yellow, so it's easy to find. This bright yellow sheet gives you the 8 general guidelines for public speaking in our meetings. And if you have any questions or if you intend to speak, you need to make sure you're familiar with these before you start. Likewise, there are 3 sign-up sheets, one for each of the public speakings tonight. One is for public forum, one is for public hearing number 1, and the other is for public hearing number 2. Check to make sure you sign up on the correct sheet for the one you intend to speak. Lastly, and I like to point this out when we have a larger crowd, if you look at that sheet there, you'll see number 6 bullet. I know they're not numbered, but the 6th one down says if you hear something you agree with and you want to applaud or cheer, we ask you do it in the ADSL deaf applause mode, which is you just put your hands and raise them. It doesn't disrupt the flow, and we get to continue, and we can all see your hands raised and wiggling. We know you're cheering for what you heard that you liked. With that, what I'd like to do now is proceed through our agenda here on page 1. We have a consent agenda items. Consent agenda are here and considered to be routine items. They are typically enacted by a single motion and adopted by the council as such, typically without any discussion. If a council member wants to pull something, however, and discuss it later on in the evening, they certainly can do that. So at this time, I'll ask the council if there's an item to be pulled for later discussion, or if there's a motion to approve the consent as submitted.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, consent agenda passes unanimously. We now move to the regular meeting agenda setting. This is on page 3. This is where we ask the council to approve the agenda for tonight's discussion so that you, the citizens, know what we're going to talk about and discuss tonight. Looking at what's in front of us, to my knowledge, there are no modifications from the town manager, from the town attorney. So at this time, I'll ask the council if there is a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as submitted, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, that passes unanimously. We now move into public forum. Public forum is an opportunity for you, the public, to speak to us, the council. This is not a time for discussion or a dialogue. We certainly can do those offline with anybody that would like to have conversations. This is a time where you, in a public forum setting, get to tell us what's on your mind, and we will listen. So with that, I turn to the sign-up sheet for the public forum. I see we have, looks like 9 names. I will go ahead and call the first, 8 names. One was removed. I'll call out the first three so that you can be ready. Sarah Hale, come on up. Dee Harmon and Peter Knothen. I had trouble with that last time. There you go, Peter. It's the architect handwriting, I think, is what gets me. Please proceed. State your name and address for the record, and you know about the 3-minute lights there, the green, yellow, red. All right.
My name is Sarah Hale. My address is 6817 Oviedo Road, Raleigh.
Okay, proceed.
And I'm here about the Tunstall House. So I just got a quick little read. It says, I'm the granddaughter of Vernon and Mary Lee Tunstall, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of the Tunstall family. My mother, brother, and myself have all called the Tunstall House home at one point in our lives, and we've all made many wonderful memories in this place, as well as the town of Apex. My grandparents bought the home in 1945 and lived there for over 60 years. They were both dedicated citizens of the town and spent much of their spare time serving this community and its people. My grandfather helped found the Apex Volunteer Fire Department with Wade Baker and Charlie Bennett and Roy Pearson, and served several years as fire chief. My grandmother was a charter member of the Apex Historical Society and a charter member of the Apex Women's Club. She taught for many years at A.B. Balcom Elementary School. In the 90s, my grandmother made a very difficult decision to sell this property to the town of Apex for the creation of a town campus and the understanding and hope that her home would be renovated and utilized as a space that would benefit the town and its people. It has been very difficult for our family to sit and watch the home fall into a state of disrepair that it's currently in, as it's sat vacant over the last 8 years. We understand that this is a big financial commitment for the town, and we also feel that it is a worthy investment and necessary to preserve this tangible link to the town's history, its founders, and to help fulfill my grandmother's wishes to restore the home to its former glory. We feel that the best and most profitable use for the home would be to convert it into a community space available for rent, similar to the Page Walker home owned by the town of Cary, or the Borden building in Raleigh. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank many family, friends, and community members who have come out tonight to show their support for this project. Would you all please give a sign of your support by raise of hand? Thank you for allowing me this time to speak, and I know that, please know that our family is willing to assist the town with this project in any way that we can.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hale. Dee Harmon, then Peter Knothen, and then Jeff Hastings. State your name and address.
My name's Dee Harmon. I live at 1615 Royal Red Trail, Apex. I'm here today because I spent a lot of time on the phone with the Apex Police Department. I'm one of the parent liaisons for our swim team that is at our subdivision, the Dogwood Ridge subdivision, the Olive Chapel Otters. And we had a swim meet 3 weeks ago that ran over time. I think we ended at 11:12 p.m. and there was multiple complaints by the same person apparently for the noise. So I'm here today because I'm not sure what to do about that, if we can fix this problem, since it's not a public area, it's a private property area. I tried to see if I could get a special events permit, because then it states that if we go over that time limit for noise ordinance, that it's okay because we have a permit. But I found out because it's private property, I can't get a permit because it's not on public property. So I'm kind of stuck. The police department said I could maybe get a petition to extend the noise ordinance from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. and I'm just here for some guidance or clarity. And when I look up the noise ordinance, it's extremely difficult to maneuver exactly what's there and how to interpret it, if you will. I think there's different ways to interpret it, and there's an exception to the limitation in Section 1431. Section 1432 states, the standards may not apply to the following sources. Number 4, it says, parades, fairs, circuses, other similar public entertainment, sporting events or activities. Sporting activities take place in areas set aside for such activities. And again, it's all on how you interpret the knowledge or the wording that it is stated in. So I'm just here to find out if we can do anything about that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harmon. And before Mr. Knothen, you can come on up, but before you leave, maybe either at break, if you stick around for a little while, either the town manager or a town attorney assistant would be happy to probably point you in the right direction. And if they have any recommendations to bring back to us, they'll do that as well. Thanks. Okay,
Peter Knosson, Jones Knosson Engineering, on behalf of the Halley Company. I'm here to speak on rezoning CZ, or 17 CZ11, which is on unfinished business. As you know, last council meeting, this rezoning was continued. Just want to let you know that we have revised the rezoning as follows. We've increased the minimum retail square footage by 10,000 square feet. So the total commitment as a minimum to the retail is now 18,000 square feet. And we've also made an adjustment to the table that is probably in your packet on the minimums, maximums, as well as separating the uses and how they're calculated. Hopefully it's more clear. That's what our intention was. So I'll be here to answer any questions if you have them when it comes about. Just a couple other points. As far as what 18,000 square feet can accommodate, Eric Rifkin, who you met before with the Halley Group, did a little accounting. Just want to present that to you. A Starbucks, Chipotle, Five Guys, Zoe's Kitchen, a Ben & Jerry's, Art of Frame Studio, a spa, a laundromat, like a Lululemon, AT&T, Verizon store. Each one of those businesses occupy anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 square feet. And the total combined out of all those uses, those are 9 separate uses, would add up to 18,000 square feet. To let you know, there are 2 contract holders on 2 vacant parcels out on that property. You heard about one, Rainbow Station. Just to recap them, they are a premier daycare facility, preschool and early education facility. We have spoken to them, and they're going to bring in, if this use is allowed, 50 jobs, and they also have an annual payroll of anywhere between $1 and $1.2 million. And then there is another contract for a 3 to 4 story office building on that property as well. So we are hopeful that this will provide some clarity, and I just want to get away from the talking points for a minute and just this is me speaking here. I know you as a town council. You have made concessions on previous rezonings, and I know a couple that haven't gone through. We have always tried to strike a balance to move this project forward, to get these vacant parcels developed, and I believe what is being presented here between 18,000 of retail and office and public use with 2 users that have a real benefit to the town, adding to the town community. We see this as a positive. I hope that you concur, and just look forward to your deliberation and hopeful support.
thank you, Mr. Knosson. All right, Jeff Hastings, then Carl Helton and Barbara Collins.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Jeff Hastings, 3609 Friendship Road, Apex. Speaking tonight on behalf of the Apex Historical Society. Tried to garner a lot of facts with help of Drew over the last few days as far as the Tunstall House. And I know that Councilwoman Wilkie is going to present later on, but just wanted to throw up the flag, so to speak, to all of you that we as a board have spoken over the last day or so, and any way that we can help facilitate improving the Tunstall House, whether it being on a committee, whether it being moving forward, certainly in helping to raise some money to do it. I've got a pretty decent track record of doing that sort of stuff myself, and so we want to see it done to the point that we want to have skin in the game, and we want to help out. So if it's a matter of figuring out whether it's a 5-year timeline, a 3-year timeline, what needs to be done, myself, with being on the Apex Historical as well as being the vice chair of the Wake County Historical Commission, I've got a fair amount of people that I can reach out to so that in short order we can sort of figure out what it's going to take to move the rock forward a little bit. And any way that myself or the board can help, we'd be delighted to do it. So,
All right,
thank you as always.
great. Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Carl Helton, Barbara Collins, and then Andrew, is that Coulter? All right, Colton? Getting better? All right. Mr. Helton.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity. Everybody's got an opinion about what needs to happen with the Tunstall House. And it's obvious my opinion about some things, the way I want to see things go, don't matter, because I'd be probably sitting up there now, so, anyway. But I think we've got a big need for a place to have weddings and receptions and get-togethers and all this that the town is really hurting for. I talked to Bruce just before he retired, and talked to Drew a little bit, and we talked about what's the difference of remodeling and renovation. He said about $2 million, so that's probably about it, to go in and renovate that building to make it what it really needs to be. But there's so much that can be done with that building. My mother-in-law is gonna turn 90 in September the 19th. And she let it be known, and most people know Rachel Baker, turning 90, that's a big event, and she's wanting a big party. So when you start looking for something for a party for Rachel Baker, I wish it had been to where we could have had it in the Tunstall House and put 150 people in there. There's a need. Everybody knows there's a need, and we have plenty of spaces for office buildings and things like that. It's like we talked about the ball fields and things where it would generate funds. I think if this is done right, it can help pay for itself. You can rent this building out for $150, $250 an hour for different events, different things. It depends on if it has a kitchen or not. So I just think that we really need to consider about, it's right here, it's right in the campus, everything is just kind of all the stars are aligned to turn that into a functional use for the town of Apex. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Helton. Ms. Collins, and then Andrew Colton, and then Kathy Muccioli.
Neighbors, Barbara Collins, 901 Norwood Lane. I'm going to give another shout out to Balcom. Somebody else said that. My daughter-in-law's a first grade teacher there. I'm going to speak on the trackside rezoning, and I'm finally going to speak in favor of the trackside rezoning, as hard as that is to believe. So I'm going to read for you what came to me, because I have feedback from several of my neighbors, and I think this is as succinct as any of the feedback I've gotten. Barbara from Amherst writes, I am okay with 18,000 square feet if that is what works for everyone. I'm going to address a letter to the council regarding this constant issue of developers agreeing to stipulations to get a permit and then coming back to change the stipulations. I know the council is under a lot of pressure to move forward, but they don't seem to stick to the town plans. Perhaps more feedback from people living in Apex will give them a better perspective. I agree with all of that, including 18,000 square feet minimum. The reason I agree with that is I think that the plans as they exist now make sense. We don't probably need an anchor store in that location. And the hope is that if 18,000 square feet goes successfully through, that they have the option of increasing that retail minimum depending on how the development goes forward. Since I'm in favor of business development, I'm here to speak in favor of 18,000 square feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. And now Andrew Colton, or you can correct, Kelton?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know anyone, so, my name's Andrew Kelton, I'm a new resident, I moved across the street. I didn't walk, I had to go to the grocery store after this. I live at 536 Grand Central Station, it's a cool name, everyone asked me about it, so I commend someone approving it.
Welcome to Apex.
I've been in the community here for about 17 years. I came down here to take over a company called Duke Realty, had acquired a big development company here, and my job was to expand it and grow, and I bought where Lenovo's headquarters are. So I've been in the development side of business this is my 37th year. I'm too slow to switch, and I got in college, got into it, and I'm going to stay there. I really am so impressed, and we've always planned to downsize and move as close as we can to downtown, and that's pretty darn close across the street. So my wife and I loved Apex. We didn't think we'd be bringing another young one who's only 15, but that happens. But I've been here for the Planning Commission, and I was here 2 weeks ago, and I'm not complaining about the rezoning, and I don't know the numbers, because it's not me, so I didn't think of it. But I really am impressed that you could put together and give them a range. So many times you're narrowed down that you've got to do this, this, and this. I did that in Morrisville. I had to plan the unit development for about 200 and some odd acres, and we had to do it. And if you switched anything, we had to come back, and it was a 12-month process, and it was pain and suffering. But, you know, I think giving the developers, I'm just speaking as personally, giving the developers the freedom to go with the economy. You're not going to end up with a project it reminds me of Carpenter Village over in west side of Cary. It was where we lived. And they had this grand master plan for retail and offices and stuff. It never happened. A daycare happened, but that was about it. It really never took off, and that's been 17 years. I was hopeful to be able to walk to a place to eat and drink, and that never happened there. I think by giving the developers some flexibility, controlled flexibility, and you still see everything that goes through, don't you? They'd have to come back for a PUD. I think you'll see it, but we're excited. Starbucks, Chipotle, that works. My gang, I have 5 kids, and the older 5 will come over any weekend, and I know where I'll have my new office if you put Starbucks down. But I really am in favor of it, and I live there in the 4th house down on the right, and we're looking forward to seeing some activity because, you know, it helps the economy and it'll spur more growth and develop out the park center. So we're pro that, and I am looking with people for opportunities here as well. So maybe that's why I'm coming in early.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Welcome to Apex. All right, and last but not least, I'm sure, Kathy Muccioli.
Hi.
Hi.
Muccioli, 986 Shoofly Path, which is Villages of Apex north side, speaking against the trackside south rezoning. I'm a lone voice tonight, I guess. I appreciate that they've increased it from 8 to 18. I do appreciate that, but it was supposed to be 60. And we've already come back so many times over the last few years with different requests. They keep changing it, and I'm afraid if we agree to the 18,000 and 6 months from now they'll come back and say, well, we couldn't get that, so how about 2,000? So I just don't trust it. I don't believe that it's really going to happen unless we really hold them to their guns. And while we were here last town council meeting, there was a lot of excitement about a new development, Friendship Station, I think it was called, live, work, play, retail, homes, schools. That's what we thought we were getting here, and they said they can't do it. So I'm not sure why it can work there and it can't work here. I think it can work here, and I'm still in favor of it. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Muccioli. All right, and that concludes the public forum. So I'll close now the public forum time. And right before we move on to the next topic, let me just see if the town manager, did you have anything you wanted to add? I don't expect anything. I'm just wondering if there was.
No, sir.
Okay, all right, great. All right, that concludes public forum. We now move into public hearings. And public hearing number 1 is a quasi-judicial public hearing. So if you'll bear with us, those of you who are here for something else, we will get started on that. But there is a process that is set forth by the state, so we will follow that pretty rigorously. In looking at that, I do have an opening statement that I will read. The town council normally functions in a legislative capacity. Special use permit hearings are quasi-judicial, which means the council acts essentially as a court of law. The burden is upon the applicant for the special use permit to put on evidence to show that they meet the criteria found in the town's Unified Development Ordinance. Anyone opposed to the application must put on an evidence of a similar kind showing that the criteria have not been met. Testimony must be given under oath. All testimony and evidence provided to the council must be competent, material, and substantial. Pursuant to the North Carolina General Statutes, competent evidence does not include opinion testimony of lay witnesses on certain matters. Hearsay evidence will not be admitted. The parties have the right to cross-examine witnesses and to present rebuttal evidence. and the town council will apply the criteria contained in the UDO and make its decision based on the evidence and testimony presented at the hearing. The town council will now take up the case of the special use permit for the East Williams Street cell tower located at 1501 East Williams Street. At this time, I will open the public hearing, and those of you who either intend to testify because you've been told by your representative that you will be testifying or presenting expert witness tonight, please come up, as well as those who are going to be presenting them. This is for your swearing in. Yep. So the town clerk will now swear in all persons who will be speaking during this quasi-judicial public hearing. Very good. Thank you very much. This time I'd like to identify the applicant who will be presenting the applicant side tonight.
David Robinson, attorney with Nexus Pruitt, representing TowerCom.
All right, very good. And you have how many expert witnesses tonight?
I have three, George Davis and Micah Retzlaff with TowerCom, and also Scott Chapman with DCC.
All right, very good. And we'll get into more detail shortly. Is there anyone here who intends to present a case in opposition tonight? All right, not seeing any opposition, that should make things go much more smoothly. However, we will make sure we check all the boxes so that we only have to do this one time and don't have to come back and do it again. So if you'll still pardon the process, we will continue. At this time, I'll ask all council members and myself to identify the following things. 1, describe any communications you may have had about this case that may have been with or by yourself related to tonight's hearing. 2, if you have any relational or financial conflict related to this case. And 3, if you feel you can decide this case impartially based solely on the competent evidence that is presented tonight. I would like to start with Councilman Jensen, who is on the far right.
I have no conflicts.
All right. And no communications?
No communications.
All right. And you said no conflicts. Okay. I think that's good. All right, Councilman Moyer.
I have no conflicts and I've had no communication regarding this.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I have no conflicts and no communication.
All right.
Partial.
Thank you. I also have no conflicts and have no financial conflicts, and if need be, I can vote and be impartial.
Okay, same here.
Okay.
And same for me, no conflicts.
All right, very good. At this time, I'll ask each council member if you've viewed the site.
I have not.
Okay. Has anybody gone to view the site?
I have not.
I have not.
No.
Okay. All right, this time I'll ask for opening statements, if any, by staff first. So if you have an opening statement, and again, this isn't evidence, this is just the opening, this is what you intend to do tonight, is all this is.
Shelley Mayo, Town of Apex planner, been with the town for 4 years, and have a master's degree in city planning. I intend to present the facts as given to me by the applicant.
All right, great. An applicant, do you have an opening statement? This is not yet presenting evidence.
No, I don't. We'll let Ms. Mayo present, and then we're here to answer any questions.
All right, very good. Let's go ahead then and present evidence. Thank you, Shelley. And for everyone who's listening, each person will identify themselves and their credentials as expert witness. So when you hear them doing that, that is a part of the formality tonight. All right, proceed.
As I said, I'm a city planner with the town of Apex. I've been here 4 years. I have a master's degree in city planning, and I've done a number of these types of presentations. The project before you is for the 1501 East William Street cell tower. This is a special use permit according to the town's Unified Development Ordinance. The cell tower is located on, or the proposed location for the cell tower is on a smaller portion of a larger parcel. This larger parcel can be seen here. I'm trying to outline it with my mouse a little bit for you. It is the site of an existing non-conforming cement plant, and a portion of it here is undeveloped woodland. The existing site is owned by Argos Ready Mix. The cement plant has been on location since at least 1993. That's the earliest aerial evidence that we have of it, and precedes the Unified Development Ordinance. Just to kind of orient you a little bit, right here is Waffle House. There is a hotel here. I think it's the Comfort Inn, but the Budget Inn, but I could be wrong. This is the Advanced Auto Parts store. There's also Arby's and the Kangaroo here. This is 810 Lufkin, the old Henry Wurst building, and all back in here is Pristine Water Drive. As you can see, the parcel is zoned light industrial. That's what this purple is here. It's surrounded primarily by other light industrial properties. To the north is planned commercial conditional use. There's a little bit of planned commercial here in the red as well. And across the street is a planned unit development that is commercial in nature. As you can see, as you noticed here, this is a smaller portion of the overall site. So we are going to zoom in on that for the layout. This particular layout sheet is only showing above above Pristine Water Drive, where it connects to East Williams Street. So the applicant has requested that there be a communication tower commercial located on this site. It's proposed to be a 155-foot tall monopole tower. The only associated structures will be the required electrical cabinets necessary to run the pole and the antennae. This use is required to meet any and all supplemental standards listed in Section 4.4 of the UDO. Those are also listed in your staff report on the third and fourth pages. The minor site plan does show an area equivalent to 20% of the cell tower site being dedicated as RCA. This is the cell tower site. Because it is part of a larger parcel, they have set aside a piece of property that's 5,300 square feet. This image is actually taken from an earlier version by accident. I apologize for not catching that beforehand. This is the layout of the internal portion of it. What you see here is this. This is the location of the monopole tower, the proposed electrical cabinets as we go further down, and then this is the entrance to it. The project will not be connecting to Town of Apex water or sewer. There's no need for this particular project. The grading that's proposed is very minimal, just enough to put in the necessary infrastructure, and the project is required to provide screening from off-site view. This is being done using a 6-foot tall fence along the exterior part of the parcel, the sub-parcel, and then ligustrum, which are tall glossy privet, being planted at a minimum of 6 feet tall. They will grow to be much taller, however. The proposed cell tower is consistent with the Apex Transportation Plan. The site will have access through a private access easement right here, which then connects to Pristine Water Drive out to having trouble with words today, out to East Williams Street. Planning staff typically does not provide recommendations beforehand for quasi-judicial public hearings. Our recommendation for this, however, is approval at this time. It does, in our opinion, meet all the requirements of the UDO. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you.
Great, thank you very much. Let me ask the council, do you have any questions? This is your opportunity to cross-examine Ms. Mayo's testimony. And while you're doing that, let me just remind the council, you have a checklist in front of you here. So as we're, it looks like this. So as we're hearing the thing tonight, feel free to look through it while we're doing it. Okay, any questions for Ms. Mayo? Hearing none, thank you very much. Let me ask the applicant if he wishes to cross-examine your testimony. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Mayo. Come up and present the evidence for the applicant, and state your name and what your role is.
Council members, I'm David Robinson, partner with Tom Johnson, whose name is on the paperwork on behalf of Tower Com. We usually start these presentations with or at least 2 years ago, we used to talk about why cell phone use was exploding in the community, and we just don't do that anymore. I think my teenage girls have sufficiently supported the industry that these towers are ubiquitous, and what we have before you is the opportunity. This is vertical real estate, and Verizon has seen a need for enhanced coverage there at the intersection of Highway 1 and Highway 55. This is an opportunity to enhance the cell signal there. It's an important crossroads for you all, and it took a long time to find the right piece of undeveloped woodland. Just one clarification, it is an 8-foot fence pursuant to your requirements, and otherwise the applicant has enjoyed working with your planning department. We have no questions or comments at this point in time with respect to Ms. Mayo's presentation or really any of your requirements. I brought some experts with me, happy to have them answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, other than the packets that you have before you, and the fact that I'd reiterate that access road is in fact a private access road, I have no further comment.
Okay. Just to be clear, do you intend to present any evidence that can be cross-examined by the council? So it's not so much that it's Q&A time, it's more, if you have evidence, we kind of need to hear. If you're presenting the data packet that we've been given as the evidence, I think we can
That is correct.
go with that.
That's all I'm doing is not supplementing and saying that we're perfectly happy with the packet that you have before you.
All right. Let me, and I want to allow sufficient time to see if the council members have any questions based on the packet of data that they have in front of them.
I'm good.
None?
I do have a question. So you guys are going to have a private drive down along that long, slender piece?
That is correct. That is correct. It's just on the slide that you have before you, just on the left side of where it says unmarked drive, that's a private access road. And again, the access to the site will be minimal. There are 2 parking spaces, but they'll almost never be used.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions by council? All right, I think we can consider that cross-examination. I'll ask staff if you have anything. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Let me refer to the sheet just to make sure I didn't miss anything important here. Since very little was presented other than what was in the packet, and it seemed very, very straightforward, I'll ask as a matter of course, but is there any non-repetitive rebuttal? Not hearing any, we'll consider that process taken care of. And now I'll ask if there are any closing arguments. Staff? None? Okay. Do you have any closing arguments? All right. We'll eschew the closing arguments and move on now to the council members reviewing their checklist. So you should have found that checklist by now. It says council checklist at the top, has 6 items in it that we are supposed to use as the standard of measure for this presentation. This is your last call to ask any questions of staff or the applicant before I close the public hearing. All right, not hearing any, I will close the public hearing, and thank you very much, both parties, for presenting tonight. The public hearing is closed. We now move to council for deliberation and finding of facts. Historically, we would walk through the list. Since we've modified the process where you have the list during the presentation, I will simply ask, does anyone have any particular item on the checklist that they wish to point out at this point for a concern? All right, not hearing any, then I will ask the council if there is a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Not hearing any discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, the matter passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for making this a fairly painless process. We got to check all the boxes. You know how it is. Thank you very much. If you choose to leave, now's a good time. And I guess the last thing, and I'm just checking this last. There is literally one last thing. I'm supposed to give an opportunity to make offers of proof related to evidence that was not allowed to be presented. But I don't know of anything that was not allowed to be presented, so I'll assume that there's nothing to do here. That's a new step. Well, at least for me. All right. So at this time we are concluded with public hearing number 1. This takes us now to public hearing number 2, which is on page 4 of your agenda. Public hearing number 2 is concerning the validity of and the advisability of issuing a $48 million worth of general obligation bonds for park and rec facilities. This is the next step in the process. Presenting is Mr. Vance Holloman. And just before you present, Mr. Holloman, I just want to ask for a show of hands. How many of you are here tonight, looking over the pickleball union, I think, are here on this matter tonight? Raise your hands. Okay, very good. That's a lot of interested folks, Mr. Holloman. Don't be nervous, but the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor. As you said, on July 18th at the Town Council meeting, a bond order was introduced calling for a referendum concerning the issuance of $48 million of general obligation bonds for the purpose of parks and recreational facilities. The council established the time and date as this evening for a public hearing concerning the advisability and the validity of those bonds. Following the public hearing, the council could possibly consider a resolution that would adopt and publish the bond order, call for the bond referendum, establish the date of that referendum as November 7, 2017, publish notice of the referendum, and establish the form of the ballot.
All right, any questions for Mr. Holloman on that? Nope? All right, thank you, Mr. Holloman. At this time, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. We've got 3 people who have signed up to speak tonight, Mr. Greg Coley, Ms. Cindy Foster, and Mr. Mark Blatchford. Please come on up in that order, state your name and address. And Mr. Coley, if you don't mind, just so that you can see those lights there, can you scoot the little podium there to your left? There you go.
Yes, sir.
I'm not worried about you running over, but I just want to make sure it's visible.
I'm good. Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the Town Council. My name is Greg Coley, and my address is 1259 Horsham Way, which is located in the Haddon Hall subdivision. I've been an Apex resident for 22 years. Currently, I am serving as the president of CAPS, which is Citizens for Apex Parks. As many of you know, CAPS is a 501c3 not-for-profit that was established in 1996 to help advocate for quality parks and recreation services, assist with the funding of public park projects, and provide resources to help awareness of local park projects for all citizens of Apex. Some of our past projects have included supporting the 1996 and 2004 Parks Bond referendums, Apex Community Center, Halley Cultural Arts Center, the Rogers Family Skate Plaza, as well as the Kidstown Playground. Several months ago, as you guys remember, CAPS presented the town with $50,000 for Kidstown Playground repairs, the playground at Salem Park, and seed money for the town's first public art effort. Our organization is extremely excited and grateful that this council will soon give the citizens of Apex the opportunity to vote for another general obligation parks bond to increase our quality of life. Our first parks bond since 2004. The proposed bond projects will include Pleasant Park, expansion of the current community center to an area primarily for seniors, and the completion of two major greenway projects, Middle Creek Greenway and Beaver Creek Greenway. These projects weren't just ideas pulled out of thin air. These were projects that were identified by our citizens in the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan adopted and approved by Council in 2013. I do have a copy of the master plan myself, if anyone would like to see it, and it is available online for citizens to review. A big, huge thank you to our Parks Department for following this plan almost flawlessly. If you check out Section 1, if you're taking notes, on pages 1-5 and 1-6, and see for yourself how well this fits into what the residents' wishes were. With Apex currently growing at a pace of 7 new residents a day, we simply do not have the field and program space to support our citizens. Did you know that 60% of our youth athletic programs have a waiting list? Let me share with you some other numbers. 85% of our adult athletic programs are on waiting lists. 17% of our special populations are on waiting lists. 32% of our senior programs have a waiting list. 70% of our contracted instructional programs have waiting lists. And 80% of our summer camps have a waiting list. These numbers speak for themselves and prove that some of our kids and adults are having to play in Cary and Holly Springs. We need to make sure we can serve our own people. The good news, folks, is we have an answer. And that answer involves Apex citizens going to the polls on November 7th and voting yes for our 2017 Parks Bond. Let me just close by saying, just call us Bond, Parks Bond, and we are voting yes in November. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Coley.
Yes.
Ms. Cindy Foster?
Good evening again. My name is Cindy Foster, and I live at 220 Yeaman Hall in Apex. And I would like to start off by thanking the council for listening to the residents by offering the opportunity to vote yes for the upcoming bond, park and bond. You may be thinking, why is this old lady? But really, I'm just a recycled teenager supporting such a large bond. We're talking $48 million, and acquire additional taxes. When looking at increased property taxes, we're talking about a possible maximum tax increase of $10 per month for the median homeowner. That's just a given. So let's get back to the bond and what it offers current and future homeowners, which includes most seniors. Number one, the bond includes a new community center expansion / senior center, which will serve all age groups, providing additional space for health, wellness, and fitness activities, helping to eliminate the center's currently filled capacity, which Greg referred to, and long activity wait lists for all age groups and functions. Number two, the bond covers an expansion and the completion of 2 extensive greenways. We're talking about Middle Creek Greenway, we're talking about Beaver Creek Greenway, both providing additional outdoor activities for all age groups, especially for seniors and their grandchildren. Number three, the bond covers the full financial support of building Pleasant Park. It's a big number, thus expediting the park's completion for additional ball fields, other amenities such as splash pads, tennis courts, picnic areas, and other programs. But again, why would a senior support such a large project like Pleasant Park? Because a high-quality park represents the whole town of Apex, such as an active, productive community, providing a sense of pride and contributes to the quality of life for all residents of Apex. That's why we support the bond and the park. In summary, this bond meets the long-term goals for the 2013 Parks and Rec update plans, providing additional space for health, wellness, and fitness-related classes, additional parks and greenways for all ages, including and not excluding seniors. It's really important, as you can tell. Thank you all again for moving forward with the upcoming bond. Thank you.
Ms. Foster. Good job with the hands. Mark Blatchford.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, Mark Blatchford, 433 Parkfield Drive in Apex. I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about the bond and to thank my fellow seniors and pickleball players for coming out tonight. Really appreciate that. I don't need to repeat for you all the arguments for the senior center, the demographics, the oversubscribed programs we have today, the health benefits, the mental benefits of things like pickleball, exercise, dance, Wii bowling, lectures. It's just a wonderful place to be. You may not, all of you, have gray hair yet, but everybody faster than you think will have gray hair and be in need of a place to go and exercise and be healthy. But no, I want to speak to you, not why I support the expansion of the senior space in the community center, but why I support the rest of the bond. As you know, Apex was voted the best small town in America 2 or 3 years ago. If we want to continue to be the best small town, we can't just sit on our laurels and expect that people are going to continue to want to come to Apex. We saw the reaction we got when we received that accolade. People have come into the town, we're growing like gangbusters, but you're not going to continue to have that wonderful place to be unless you continue to offer amenities to people who are moving into the town and people who are aging into the golden years of their lives. So I want to say that I really support this bond. I think it's a legacy that we leave for future generations. I think the price tag is not insignificant but manageable for most families. And I think that it's just a wonderful way to keep our seniors healthy and off the streets. So I will vote for the bond in November and for the greenways. I may never walk a greenway. I may never go to Pleasant Park to play ball or watch a ball game or walk their trails. But I think it's important that the people who are here now and need those kinds of opportunities have that, and that our children and our grandchildren will have that in the future. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blatchford. And with that, I will close the public hearing before too many impish characters break out and keep our streets safe. So, with that, I'll bring the matter back to council for discussion and or possible motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I'll say for record again, I oppose this, and I don't question the need, especially for senior center. I think that's long overdue. Senior center is needed. I just question the sheer size of this bond. It's huge. It's going to take a lot of money to pay it back on our seniors and all the other citizens. That on top of the other bonds that are going to be passed by Wake County that are soon to come, one for education, one for transportation. So I think when you start coupling all these tax increases together, it's going to hit some people really hard. People that aren't fixed incomes and they can't afford that. My approach would be scale it back, do it on a pay-as-you-go basis as funds become available. I just think the $48 million debt is going to be just too large, and it's going to kind of tap us out for a lot of other things, where as far as money to go pay for the Tunstall House renovations, that kind of thing. So it's too much, too big. I'd rather go slow.
All right. Any other discussion on the motion?
Well, I appreciate that, Gene, and certainly it is big, and there are other things. There's public safety and economic development, as you well know, and I understand fully what you're talking about. But it isn't that we're going to immediately purchase these bonds. This is the permission to do so. I doubt if I'll use many of these facilities. I'll probably not be here. Who knows? 1 foot in the grave and one on a banana peel. But I just think it's democracy, as I said before. It truly is. We're giving people the opportunity to simply make that decision, and certainly and I understand what you're saying. There's people on fixed incomes that we need to be cautious to try not to overtap them in any way, but as the overall, I'm gonna vote for this, and I've voted for it every time, and I do understand your reservations. You're very thoughtful in that, and I very much appreciate your concerns, and you're looking out for people. But I just think it's something we should go ahead with.
I will second what you're saying. I agree with you from start to finish. I do think that there will be, this has given us the permission to borrow this money. It doesn't mean that we're going to go out and borrow $48 million tomorrow.
Sure, there's no need to repeat what we've had lengthy discussions about this. I'm excited about, the opportunity to make these projects come to life. So we'll see what happens in November.
Yeah, and I won't be repetitive either. I will say that a few weeks ago, I was speaking, as Mr. Blatchford spoke, in the Dell Senior Center in Marion, North Carolina. It's a beautiful place, but it's lower wealth and lower growth also, but they still have a beautiful senior center and have thousands of people who use it. And so, you know, being that been in so many senior centers across the state, I just think that it's time for us to do that here for people who've already paid in advance for that. And I think it's a great thing that the different age groups, different mobility levels, ability levels, there will be things for people to do. I think it creates more capacity. We've asked people what they wanted, and we're coming back again and asking, is this what you want, but here's the price tag for it over a number of years. And so, you know, I work in poverty every day, and so I'm very thoughtful about that too, but I also know that people who earn lower incomes also want to get out and exercise and engage, and we can think of ways to help folks be able to afford some of the things that might be due on that. So I'm in support of this, and I always have been.
All right, haven't heard from everybody. I think it would be time for a call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
All right, the vote passes 4-1. We now conclude public hearing. There is no old business. We now move to unfinished business. In the unfinished business, we have item number 1, which was continued from July 18th. I'm making a note here, sorry. And Liz Lofton is presenting that tonight. This is the Villages of Apex South PUD amendment. And Ms. Lofton, you have the floor.
Good evening. This is, item was continued from the July 18th meeting. This is the Villages of Apex PUD amendment. And to summarize, the applicant is requesting this PUD amendment to provide additional uses on their 3 remaining tracts. Since the last town council meeting, the applicant revised their PUD amendment letter, and you should have a copy. It's dated July 24th. In the letter, the applicant did change the format of the tables, breaking them down from 1 table as previously presented into 3 tables. However, the only main change is the increase in the amount of retail from 8,000 to 18,000 in Table 2. Staff did want to point out that with the revised letter as written, the 20,000 square foot minimum amount of office is already existing office, so that would mean there is potentially no additional office. Additional office is allowed in the PUD, but is not committed as a minimum. Those were the only changes. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer those.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lofton. Any questions for Liz?
The building that's right across the street, that's part of this PUD?
Yes, it is part of this PUD.
So potentially that'd be the only building there, like office building? You're saying that?
The corner of Laura Duncan and the Peakway is also a part of this PUD and is committed for office as well. It's
But
under construction right now.
I gather that building across the street is 20,000 square feet?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand what you're looking at, Gene, and the main thing I look at here is it's not for residential. It's got to be either office or retail or public service. So they're going to do something. This does give them the flexibility. I understand that, but the main thing is they have to do something. They're not going to sit on that, and maybe they'll have more retail. But I'd love to see the office. I ran through the numbers really quickly while we're sitting here, and if they build out all the office that they want, they could, we'd be looking at 400 jobs probably spread out in that area, which would be a good thing. They won't make it, in all likelihood, but there's the potential for that.
All right.
I'm very pleased with I guess I can say it's 18,000 going up, and last time when I was like, okay, I'm supporting this, but I look at when it was 8,000, that was a minimum, and when you say a minimum, that doesn't mean that's all they're going to do. And so in 18,000, again, I look at that again as a minimum. It doesn't mean that that's all they're going to do and that that's all we are making them do, but bottom line, they could always do more. So I like the 18,000. I think that's fair, and I appreciate Ms. Collins working with her, I don't know, group or whatever you want to call your group, or your what tribe, what do you call it now, your squad in getting this to a fair number.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna vote in favor of this.
Okay.
I voted against it prior because I thought it was too low, and frankly, I still think it's a little low, but I guess what did it for me is, I mean, we still have out parcels in the Food Lion Plaza, and nothing's moved there, so you gotta believe the market is not there, frankly. So I'm willing to give them some flexibility, even though it kind of makes me feel a little queasy because I feel like we're in agreement, but I guess if there's no market, and you gotta make a change, so.
I had initially requested we push this 2 weeks ago because I felt the 8,000 was a little too low, too much of a drastic change. So I appreciate the work, and I met with the developer, and we got coffee and talked about ideas and thoughts, and I feel comfortable with the proposed changes, and I'm excited to see it kind of come full circle on it.
And I just had a comment related to Ms. Muccioli. She spoke about, so if the developer, says, or the applicant says that won't work, will they come back? And so I guess I just wanted to just raise that about, people's concerns about would we change this again if they say, well, it's harder to do that amount. And I understand there is, hard to do certain things here in Apex. So just wanted to raise that. If we come back again, then that's going to be, a problem for people if we let it go back down.
All right.
Well, I know I've already spent my time, but if I may spend just a moment or two more. I know the developer, when we were looking at the larger number of 60,000, the thought was that possibly they could bring in a small market or something like that. And I do know the developer went out, and we actually worked with them to try to get a small market on there. The markets have a formula that they go through, and they do traffic count and things like that, and they just wouldn't go. We couldn't get them to go. So we're losing the market, but we still have basically the out parcel opportunities, and that's what it comes down to with what remains. So, and the other thing is I got emails from some folks in the villages, and one of the things that one of the people and I went back and forth with was suggestions on what could go there. And I think what's important for the people in the villages of Apex is to work with the developer. If you have any ideas, I threw some out as possible primal foods, barbecue place came back, specific places. If you all can suggest it to them, maybe even talk to these different eateries, if that's what you're looking for, or anything else that you're looking for. I know they're willing to work, and because it's good for them, and it's good for you guys. So, I mean, the villages of Apex could be a huge sales force to bring this stuff in. So all I'm suggesting is work with them, and I think you'll end up with something that you'll really like. I truly believe that.
Thank you. Is there a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval of the modification to the PUD. Any further discussion on that motion?
I would like to second what Mr. Jensen said about the developer. They're very willing to listen for end users. So if y'all have ideas as a community that you'd like to see, we can help make that connection, facilitate it however you want us to. But I know they're very open to stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and and I'll support this with that number coming up some, but, I do wanna caution that it needs to probably stay at that number, as far as I'm concerned anyway. Or go up, I mean, this does not need to go back down.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that motion passes unanimously. That concludes unfinished business. Now we move to new business number 1. This is discussion on the future use of the Tunstall House. Councilmember Denise Wilkie has the floor.
When I first got elected to the town council, I kept saying, what is that building over there? What is that house? And I'd lived in Apex about 23, 24 years when I was elected, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know who owned it and why it was there. And again, I had lived here about 23, 24 years. And so now I still hear people in Apex go, what is that, and what's its purpose? So tonight what I'm trying to do is to come up with a purpose for the Tunstall House so that we know what to do going forward. Again, I've noticed it was a beautiful home, and so I asked questions, what is it? And they said, well, it's the Tunstall House, and it's part of the town campus. The town owns it, taxpayers own it, citizens own it. I said, okay, well, what do you use it for? And it was crickets. Well, we've thought about this, and we've thought about that, and thought about this, and nothing seemed to stick. So I said, okay, well, who's in charge of it? I don't know who wants to be in charge of it. Those are the kind of answers I was getting. And then I was said, well, then why is it sitting there? Well, then it comes down to what it always comes down to is money. You know, where's the money, and who's going to pay for this, and the cost of restoring the house. So my next question was then, well, how do we do something? And that leads us here to tonight. I know it's been 4 years, and I'm the biggest procrastinator in the world. I'll just ask anybody. They know I wait until the last moment to get anything done, but then I get it done, believe it or not. I'm that person that stay up all night to do it, but I should have been doing it 3 years ago. But anyway, over the past 3 years, I have been doing a little here and there and whatever. Met with people and talked about raising some money for this house, and their question always came back to me, well, what are you going to do with it? What's the purpose of it? And I go, well, this is what I'd like to do with it. This is what I think it should be. But bottom line, we can't do anything until the council approves to do what that will be. My opinion on what it should be is, like several people spoke tonight, I think it would be a great place to have a venue for weddings, receptions, and community events. I'll pass this down. I printed this off for the council. It's just a little flyer about the Borden House in Raleigh and the Fletcher Park and what they use that house for. I have a daughter that's getting married next year, and I don't know if any of you have been in wedding planning mode before, but I know I'm in the wrong business. I have been in the wrong business because a venue for a party, just a party, is outrageous. A venue for a wedding reception, you say I need to have a reception, that amount like triples. So if words to the wise, if you tell people you're using it, you need a venue, don't tell them you're having it for a wedding. Just say, I'm having it for Rachel Baker's birthday, you know, so something like that. Don't just sneak the wedding cake in and whatever. Seriously, I know, Mr. Olive, you've gone through that with your daughter, and you've probably had those experiences. But anyway, we tried...
Except for the sneaking in the cake.
Yeah.
We went in the front door with that, but other than that, yeah.
I like that, yeah. But bottom line is that this is a home that the town has been entrusted with, and in the meantime, we've just kind of let it go. I think a lot of times I look at that house versus the picnic shelters at the parks, and the picnic shelters are in better shape. And this is a taxpayer-owned building, and we need to really take ownership of that and do something about it. We've started, like I said before, I've met with different people. I even met with somebody from the Fletcher Foundation a couple of years ago and walked through the house, and his question was, again, what are you going to do with it? And, you know, I'm going, just like the people did to me. So we started raising some awareness this year through having some concerts. We did get some sponsorships, and I think we're going to have one more probably in October, and do a fundraiser then. But that's the biggest part of that was not so much raising money, but it was raising awareness. And then people were on Facebook and social media going, okay, oh, there's a Tunstall House, then what can we do? So I think that's that's, the awareness is out there. But if you'll read, council members, if y'all read the first sentence under the picture, it says the boarding building in Fred Fletcher Amphitheater located in Fred Fletcher Park. The building of the amphitheater can be rented for weddings, parties, small conferences, bridal portraits, meetings, and other special events. And I truly believe that that's what the Tunstall House should be used for. I could talk about funding, but we need to establish a purpose first before I talk about funding. I think right now, even at the yard, it's a beautiful setting to have events out there now with a little help with like a catering kitchen and bathrooms over there. You could start even having events sooner than later. So I guess what I need to do is, my proposal for the Tunstall House is to make it an event center. Hopefully make it something that people in Apex would be proud of and would want to rent it, and use the money that's rented to sustain it so that we are not having to continually pour money into it for just the upkeep of the structural upkeep. I know a couple years ago, what did we spend, about $35,000 just for the structural upkeep of the house, and that money, I mean, I don't know where, I mean, it went over there, but there's no, oh, look what we did to show for it. And kind of like when I go out to eat, you know, it's gone. But anyway, I'd like to see something. It's true. I mean, you know, I have nothing to show for it, and kind of like that. So I'd really like to see us not have to spend $35,000 every 2 years for structural support of the house, but actually to be bringing in $35,000 a year to maintain the house. So that's my proposal.
I think it's a great idea. We have a gym over there, and I think it's part of Apex's history that I'd love to see preserved and on display for everybody. The trip becomes paying for it, right?
Here's my feeling. I think it's definitely a gem that we need to save and need to spend money on to fix it. I do oppose any private use for like wedding receptions or parties or anything like that. And the reason being is we're competing with other businesses in our town now. So here we have a taxpayer-funded building that we're going to be competing with April Manis, who runs a wedding reception venue. Yuri Ross at Anna's, you know, has the loft upstairs for parties. So I don't feel right competing with private enterprise.
Well,
can I ask you this? Do we pay property taxes on the property?
No.
So automatically our business expense is way lower than a private business, and to me it's unfair competition. So it's a principle thing, and I understand, you know, it'd be nice to make money, but at the cost of having Yuri Rojas or April Manis pay their taxes and have those taxes go to something that's going to compete against them is just unfair.
Okay, my argument to that is that's what capitalism is all about. It's fair market, and
It's not fair market.
it is fair market and competition.
How?
Because people can choose to rent this or they can't. And if I want to choose this and rent this for $100 an hour versus $2,500 or whatever Miss Manis charges, that's my choice. And Raleigh is doing this. There are venues all over Raleigh. I tried to book this place for my daughter's engagement party and couldn't get it. Had to go somewhere else and pay probably twice as much.
Is that through the city, or who manages?
Through the city. It is
City
through Raleigh. It's through the Raleigh Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec.
I've been there also.
Yep. So, I mean, I just think I don't know what else you're going to do with it, and bottom line is it's sitting there, it's a beautiful building, the town owns it. It's no more to me than if I'm going out there and renting the community center or renting a shelter at the park. I'm choosing to do that versus going to April Manis's or going to Yuri's or wherever else. I mean, it's an option, and to me, it's capitalism at its finest. And your tax dollars are already paying for it.
Well, I always like to go last, because then I get the last word, and I rarely do that because I'm married.
And, you know, and I don't want to even go to the fundraising part, and I don't want to even talk, you know, that, because I know we need to do the purpose, but I think you've heard several people in this room and several organizations telling you that they would be more than thrilled to get involved with this project.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I mean, I think it does need to be, we need to bite the bullet and invest the money in it to get it up to where it needs to be. But I think it should be used for either the town meeting space or something community, maybe HOA meeting space, that kind of thing, but I don't think we should get in the business of commerce with it, that's all.
Well,
I can go, you wanna be last?
okay, you can be that.
Okay, Councilwoman Wilkie, I had a question for you with the next step. So what you need from us is if we're willing to, say yes to pursuing this idea, and then you would come back with next steps related to that idea. Because
Exactly.
it's a little bit harder to plan something if you don't know what the purpose is,
Exactly.
right? If you're doing, so that's your, okay. And then I had a question related to, you know, bringing up the things about people who already own businesses that might be competitive with this. One of the things is maybe think about a complementary thing. So, for example, you have people who have restaurants, so perhaps who do cater. So perhaps the caterer they will be hired to, you know, use this the space. So maybe there's a way if we do this where we have lists of things, you know, if you use our space, here are all the places in Apex where you may purchase flowers, purchase food, fruit. I don't know what else Miss Manus does, but perhaps the wedding could be at Miss Manus's, but maybe the reception, I mean not the reception, but like the dinner ahead or the brunch or whatever, a shower would be at this. So I think there's a way to complement the folks here and drive dollars to them. And then the following thing I would say, well, the third thing I would say is that, you know, perhaps there would be, and maybe you have this, I don't know, but a task force or a committee of different stakeholders, of business people, of town people, you know, of folks who may use it, and then brainstorm together on how best to do this. And the following thing I say is preserving history is important, and I appreciate what the family has done, and they are volunteering to still help out the historical society. So you have people willing and ready to volunteer. We just need to know what they need, you know, what we need for them to do. So that's, you know, I'm in support of doing something versus just spending money for it to sit there and not preserving something the family had intended, like we do other times. The Pleasant Park was an intention for that.
And before I give you the last word, Mr. Jensen, I'd like to say one more thing too, if you don't mind. I know I was a history major in college, and that is very, very important to me, is historical preservation and understanding how our past connects to our present. And so many people in Apex now, we have so many new people here. I'm one of those people that have been here 26 years, but I'm still kind of in the middle of new and old. But this is a way of bringing all these people together, connecting our past with our present. And I also look at this as, I remember the mayor talking about don't have a place for, you know, our town staff and people to have events. When the chamber wants to do something, we have to go to McGregor or Preston. When even the town, you know, ourselves, a lot of times we end up going somewhere out of town, and this would be a nice facility to have these events for more local people in our town. So.
Ms. Wilkie, hold on before you have the last word.
I shouldn't have ever said that. I'm just eager.
You mentioned something to me earlier today in our Parks and Rec Committee meeting that I thought was really cool that we could maybe incorporate into this if we move forward with it and do a museum-esque type of thing about the peak. What was it that you had?
Now, this is what I've heard, and Mr. Havens may correct me, but that the peak of the railroad is actually on that property. And so CSX has a nice correlation there, and if this does move forward, I feel like that several people in this audience know how to get a grant from CSX to try to help with that. I would like to see, looking at them, I believe that there's ways to incorporate the art, and we're talking about public art, ways of incorporating artifacts that are very special to this town throughout that house and with the artwork and artifacts. I know they talked about that the Raleigh Parks and Rec Department actually bought antiques for the Borden House in Fletcher Park, but I know that the Maynard Pearson House probably has quite a few pieces that could be shared over there as well. Thank you, Mr. Moore, for bringing that up.
Last word.
My turn for the last word.
Or is it?
You know, I've waited so long to forget what I was going to say. Yeah. No, I would say, you know, there's been a comparison of the Manus's property with this, and the Manus's had a special use permit out that was quite contentious and a big problem. But we already do offer weddings at the cultural center of a sort, and I don't think that is not competition with others because there's a difference in the venue that we're talking about. And I don't think that this would be competing with others in a wide variety of weddings or things like that because it's kind of specific. I could see a special events and weddings, but also we had talked about possibility of leasing out the upstairs to possibly lawyers or office uses. I think we need to look at what the return for the taxpayer is going to be on how we do this. Typically, we won't make money by any means. We're not supposed to, I don't think. But just how we can manage it. And we need to look at the cost. I know some very large numbers have been thrown around. I think we as a council try to keep the tax rate as low as possible. And sometimes if you're as low as possible, you can't get things done that you really need to get done. So I'm in favor of, if we have to in situations like this, raise the taxes a little bit because it's a heritage of all of Apex. And yes, we might be competing with private enterprise, but the town itself is really the largest corporation in Apex. That's what we are. And our stockholders are our town citizens. It's the taxpayers. And somehow we have to give them the results, a result that is positive for the dollar. And I think that we need to fix this up, and I think we need to look at multiple possible uses, and certainly what you suggested as a wedding venue. I'm through.
Thank you.
So I'll take your last word and raise you the last word.
Okay, you've got it.
But I think since I've heard a lot of good thoughts in here, and I appreciate the fact that everybody's being very thoughtful about it. That the house, I remember when Miss Tunstall lived there, and it is at the apex of Apex, essentially, that we have two peaks about the same elevation. This is one, the other one is pretty much right there where Anna's Pizza is. But those two things, it is a historical house. It is one of the oldest houses still standing. One of the things that, as you know, I've found a passion for as I continue to be here, and I found the stash of old Western Wake Herald newspapers here, and I keep digging through those. I find that the things that we have, and the book that the Holloman brothers put together, from all the materials that Mr. Carl Holloman pulled, and including all of his interviews and hand-typed notes from, I don't know when he started that, in the 50s maybe. Some of those things, and there are artifacts that people probably have in barns that have been handed down from family to family, and we know they're out there, don't we, Ms. Cook? We know they're out there. People have them. There are still things. So what I'm leading to is we don't really have sort of an info center museum sort of concept. And I've learned this, and some of you have seen on social media, I'll go find a downtown and I go look straight at the info center and the town hall and the police station, and I kind of like to look and see what a lot of these places have. And we've got a great depot building, and there's a lot of things preserved there, but it's not really, and it kind of functions as an info center, but it's not. We have a lot of people that come here, and there's a lot of people who have been here for the first time, and just in the last 12 months, we have many new people moving here, right? We have 50 people moving here every week right now. Let that sink in for a second. 50 people moving here every week. They don't know Apex history the way some of us do, and even those of us who've been here just 15, 20, 25 years, there's still history way beyond that. Isn't that right, Mr. Holland? There's history way beyond the last 25 years.
That's correct.
Mr. Holland knows. I mean, he went to Apex. My thinking is, as this site, I think, would be a great civic space used for a civic purpose, meaning information sharing with new citizens and old. Maybe a place for all of these barn artifacts to be donated to the town, because I mean, I believe many people probably would if they knew they were going to a good place. To where that house, which by the way doesn't have a lot of square footage in it, if you really look at it, it's not as, it may be grand looking, but in terms of square footage, it would be hard to have a party of 100 in there, much less, you know, anything bigger than the Halley Cultural Center will hold. Can you do a wedding or a venue of some type where you charge for people? Maybe. But I think it would be a great place as a public civic space that we have somebody operate, that it's available for people to go visit, that we can direct people through that nice little path from North Salem Street that crosses the railroad tracks to walk over, walk in, there's our information center, learn about the town, some type of history in there. That I think we should renovate the building. I think it would be good to take as much opportunity as we can to raise funds privately, and also any naming, I don't know if naming rights is the right way to go, but maybe not naming, but along the lines of donations or angels who may want to help see history preserved. I think there are a lot of opportunities for something like that to pull together. I challenge anybody to read the first 2 chapters of Toby Holloman and Warren Holloman's book on the history of Apex and realize that's the one. That's the one. Just reading the first 2 chapters makes you realize there's a lot that happened here before any of us even realized what happened. You know, there were 2 fires in 1905 and 1911 that burned all the wooden buildings downtown, which is why we have the blessing we have today of 100-year-old buildings that all look pretty similar. Name another town. It's hard to find other towns because what happened was about every 10 years they'd build another building or 2. So you get all these decades of different looking buildings. We have a blessing in our downtown, these buildings with a couple of notable exceptions which were built around 1959. But the vast majority of those were all built there in the same probably 1910 to 1925 era.
And they were built out of bricks.
And they were built out of bricks so they would not burn down.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So with all that said, I would like to see us find a way to fund the renovation. My preference would be a renovation that's along the lines of true to what it is, which is a house that represents a house of that era. Whether it takes the appearance of, maybe you find one of those bedrooms and you set it up like an old bedroom, you know, old style, rope it off, you can see it, you know those kind, right? And have a place where we can preserve Apex history the way it looked back then. I think those would be good uses. I'm not married only to that. I think there are other possibilities. I do step cautiously into the realm of using it for a commercial purpose. I think there are people who can find ways to make businesses out of those type of things. This is certainly not, in my opinion, not the right place for that. But that's up for discussion. Certainly the council can have that discussion, and I'm perfectly happy to facilitate it. But since you brought me into it, I wanted to at least offer my opinion.
Well, I'm gonna have the last word on that, then.
Well, this will have to be your last word, because you've already had 3.
Well, I didn't say that. I said Mr. Jensen was gonna have his last word, and I said I was gonna say something before he did.
I don't
But,
believe any of you anymore.
I respectfully disagree with you, Mr. Mayor, because I feel like a room set up as a bedroom back in the 1920s is not what people really want to see, and that's, broke my pen, and that's what the Maynard Pearson House is right now. It's a living museum over there, and you can go see that anytime. The Maynard Pearson House is very choppy, so it's not very well established, and the parking is not good over there to have events. However, this house, even as I said before, I've said this to several of you, the rooms are big in that house. They can be renovated. You can have events in there, like the Page Walker Hotel in Cary. The other thing I've thought about too, and I've said this to several of you, if we start small and go bigger, you start kind of on the outside, do a nice garden, then you go inside and build a catering kitchen and some bathrooms, and you've basically got a venue because you're using the outside. People use tents. put those up, and you have a beautiful place outside that hopefully the Garden Club and the Apex Historical Society could help manage. Inside that building, once you get it renovated, I see all these artifacts that you're talking about, Mr. Mayor, and putting those around, pictures of Apex as it was, and some of the historic things that we have and artifacts that we have to represent the people here. Pictures of Buddy Holland on that wall. Pictures of the Hollemans, pictures of these people, Mr. Tunstall in his fire suit, and pictures of A.V. Balcom. I mean, what a tribute to the fire department we could do with that house. I think that, you know, roping a room off, shaped like, restored as a bedroom, I have no interest in that. I'm not going to take my grandchildren to see that. But what I may do is, if this was restored, I would have loved to have my daughter's engagement party there. And I would love to go to Rachel Baker's 90th birthday, and maybe it'll be something will be done for it by her 95th or 100th.
If Mary Lee Tunstall was living, she would be so pleased and happy. She was a dear person.
Well, I would like to get the last word. I think everybody has a lot of really good ideas.
Leave it to Buddy Hall. Let him say the last word.
I'm sorry. I'll finish off, and then I'm going to be really quiet. No, I just think what the mayor's thoughts are really good. I think that it can be blended with what you're talking about, and that's how we need to bring this program together. I remember we did talk about a museum some time ago about that, and I think that's a really great idea, and it really would work well with what you're saying. I think we could do both.
Thank you.
I truly do.
Thank you.
And one other thing I would like to say about weddings statistically, the larger the wedding, the faster the divorce.
I know.
And this could be for nice small weddings.
Yes.
So I thought about some of the things you said, and it reminded me of like the Welcome Center in Wilson, for example. So, you know, I'd like to see someone blending sort of what you all are saying is, you know, we can have these things in a space and it kind of can function like a welcome center, but it's a welcome center that you're welcome to have events. And, you know, I don't know what happens if we make money, what happens, but I think that at least would have the money to maintain what's happening there. So if you have someone there at the Welcome Center, you have to pay them and to provide the benefits. We have to keep the house up. And so I don't know what we're able to do, but I would like to sort of see Welcome Center / you know, this is your space, and like I said before, sort of using the complementing what vendors, you know, can be in the area, and just be another place to gather in this community. So I like to see a mix of that.
We do have to recognize, and I see our town manager there going gulp a little bit. I think, I'm not sure, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this will be expensive, and we need to look at it and understand how expensive it will be to fix it, and we might well not get the money from just donations.
Right.
We have to be ready to say, okay, we're going to do this, and this is what it's going to cost, and we're going to do what we need to, as a town council, to get it done.
And I think that's your next step, Mr. Jensen. I think tonight we just need to say this is the purpose, so that then we can actually go out and form a committee or form a 501c, whatever it is we need to do, whatever it's called, thank you, to get this started, and, you know, set a time frame and look at where the money's coming and, you know, what's going on. But I do not, and I've said to, I think Ms. Hale before, I'm concerned, I don't want to see this happen like the skate park, where, you know, we're trying to raise private funds to build a skate park, and then somebody says, oh, well, the town's going to pay for this, and then those funds stop. So I would like to, once we get past the purpose, when we start talking about fundraising, is this is how much the town is going to expect to be raised, and then this is how much we will kick in. So, I mean, I think that you've got to set a parameter for that, too.
I understand what you're saying. Realistically, we did try to do that with the skate park, but as soon as you get into it with the town. But on the other hand, you know, people volunteering money is one thing, and at the same time, they're doing more than their share for other people sitting back someplace and not doing their share. And if it's done on a tax basis, quite frankly, it spreads the pain equally among people, relatively equally, and then you can supplement it with additional funds.
But I think there's
from those
grants.
who can and those who really are interested.
And
But I agree. I know there's a big problem,
Yep.
but we'll never get there with just fundraising. I recognize that. At least I don't believe we will. And we do have to supplement it. It's a trick. And I know the mayor will figure it out.
Oh, you give me a lot of credit there. Let me ask the town manager, do we know the square footage of the house?
About 2,400 square feet, 25, somewhere in there.
Okay.
It's not,
And, is it fair to say for the uses that we're talking, even though right now we've got a few things on the table, would that square footage be considered usable and adequate? In other words, maybe I can ask it a different way. One of the, as a negative, this is a question, we're not proposing adding on a structure onto the back of the house or the side of the house or expanding it in some type of fashion.
No.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so the idea here is renovate it
well, and
or
I need to be
rehabilitate
very clear
it.
that it's not renovation. It has to be restoration.
All right.
Which comes with a little bigger price tag because everything needs to be done true to the historic nature of the property. So, it's got aluminum siding on it. That's not true to the the period in which that house was built. So the siding needs to replace. The shingles on the roof are not the period shingles when that house was built. They need to be replaced. So it's a lot more than just doing a renovation of my kitchen at my house. It really is. It's restoration. It's specialized work. The guy to my left knows a lot about historic restoration. If you go to the downtown Pittsburgh and look at the Chatham County Courthouse, the way that was restored, that was a project that David managed. So he's familiar with historic restoration and will certainly be willing to help us.
I think he just signed you up, David.
I did just sign him up. He's got.
We don't want to burn this house down to restore it.
Sounds like there's
We don't want to burn it down.
So restoration is the correct word to use here.
Yeah.
And to be clear, we're talking, regardless of use, we're talking about restoration of the premises and the building as it stands without increasing either the ground footprint or the total square footage interior. Right, okay.
Can you add square footage on a historic site like that? You probably can't.
We might end up subtracting to make it historically correct because there were additions that I think the historians would have to look at.
You'd have to ask Mr. Hastings, but my understanding is that you could possibly move another historic, outbuilding onto that property, but I don't believe you can add on to that house.
No, you can't add on.
It's duly, it's a Wood County landmark as well as a National Register.
But that's not.
Society, we were told, it would not make national register. And I don't know about the regulations for Wake County, but I know they're much looser than those of national.
All right, so before we get too far down, what I think we need to do as a council is, let's ask a fairly basic question. Do we want to undertake the restoration of the Tunstall House within a reasonably short time frame to get started? In other words, it's not something we're looking at a 5-year horizon to start. Something we want to kind of get rolling on.
And I will point out, the council has adopted a capital improvement plan that includes the restoration of the Tunstall House in year 5.
Year 5?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, how much is allocated?
$915,000. I don't know where that $2 million number came from.
Yeah.
All right, but from the planning purposes, there's no reason why we can't at least kind of start that conversation, right?
Form a committee, a nonprofit, a fundraising effort.
So yeah, I'm interested in in supporting the next step of having a diverse group of people on a task force or committee committed to looking at this and seeing what makes sense.
All right.
So, yes.
I'm in favor of pursuing restoration, just not using it for commercial purposes.
Okay. Well, I think what I'm hearing, and maybe we can ask it this way. We've got more or less a request to put together kind of a steering committee or task force or subcommittee or some term like that in order to kind of carry the conversation forward. To answer Councilmember Wilkie's earlier question, who owns this and who's gonna drive it forward.
What's the purpose?
And I think, and,
What's the purpose of the building?
well, but I'm saying the question that you originally were asking was who owns this?
No, the question
You
is...
did, though.
Yeah, but I
You
did
did
ask-
that.
I asked the people when I first was elected, who owns this? But the question that
I
tonight
understand,
is,
but,
what's the purpose of it?
But the reason I brought that up is because right now, still, nobody owns that. So what I'm trying to bring up is, let's create, I think what we're hearing is, let's create a group, a subcommittee of some type, and if the council will approve it, then that committee can own. Then we've got somebody owning it. We can begin to have the conversations and working with staff to talk through the processes and the steps that we need, so that when we get ready to fund the whole thing, we've got everything in order. That way we don't have to solve everything tonight, but we know who's going to be carrying that ball forward.
They're owning the work. They're owning it, yeah.
So would that be CAPS? Would this be would that be
It
fair
could-
to CAPS?
I think CAPS could do something with it because they did with the house.
I think it would probably need to be a new group, and we would probably have a committee, one person from council. We'd probably have one person from CAPS. We'd probably have one person from Parks and Rec staff, one from advisory committee, and maybe a couple other,
I
you
think
know,
the
we could,
Historic Society.
we could put
the
together,
family.
we could put together some type of group. Let me ask
And a
this.
business person.
Yeah, so let me ask it this way. If there are no objections, from the council, can we get agreement that we're going to create this kind of steering committee? And then we'll ask the town manager to work on the type of people we assign. So we've done this with other steering committees and other groups, so it's pretty common for staff to say, here are the 7 types of people we'd like to see on this. And they can come back to us with a recommendation, you know, bring that back to me. We'll work on who goes into those slots, and then they can begin a meeting schedule and start talking about the content. Does that sound reasonable?
I think that's the next.
So the Tunstall Task Force.
Okay, sure. We can go with that. Any objection to that? All right.
Do we need to make a motion to go forward with
We
this?
can. If there's no objection, I think it's the same thing, but we can if you'd like to make a motion.
I would like to make a motion.
All right.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward on setting up a task force to look into restoration of the Tunstall House.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, so that passes unanimously. We'll ask the town manager to take that on as something to put together a type of folks that'll be on that, and then we'll work on filling it and follow up with the council in due course. Sound reasonable? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Wilkie.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
support.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you. And thank you for all you people that came out. I know, we have, Betty Tunstall Williams here tonight, and I think you drove from Anger, is that correct? Right. Thank y'all for coming out and supporting this.
All right, well, that concludes our new business, and I don't see any closed session or any work session. So having concluded everything on our planned agenda, I'll look around to see if there's any final word. Don't see